Okay, before anyone asks, I'm out of breath because I'm walking up and down a hill with a weighted vest. And also, if you're wondering why I'm whispering, it's because I'm out and about in my neighborhood. It's a quiet neighborhood and I have a booming voice. Obviously, a lot of you will know, some of you won't know, that's cool, that I have been doing keto, the keto diet, probably now, this is week 3, and I've been using home-delivered meals from A-Life Plus, which has been a godsend. But long story short is I've been in ketosis now for well over 2 weeks. And I remember when I first started getting into it, one of my friends saw it, she has ADHD, which is the purpose of this video. It's not about the ketosis as much as it's about ADHD, something that I probably suffer from. I haven't had it professionally diagnosed yet, she has. And she was mentioning that she had been experimenting with ketosis because ketosis has been used as a treatment, a successful treatment, clinically verified, as I believe, for people with epilepsy. And then, being the ADHD person she was, she knew that, and she's starting to be a doctor, she knew that there was, or she could see that there were some structural similarities perhaps in the brain or neural activity between ADHD people and those with epilepsy. So then she was thinking about what would the effect of keto be on her ADHD. Now I can tell you, as someone who, as again, probably has ADHD, haven't had it diagnosed, the last 2 weeks since I've been on ketosis have been the most productive weeks of probably the last 3 years, ever since the pandemic, maybe with a couple of exceptions. And it's not even been something I go, wow, I'm so productive, because and this is my frustration with the way that my brain works, is it's always looking at things through the lens of it's not enough. So you end up, for example, I was doing some videos the other day and I have a few that I could do, and rather than celebrating the fact that I managed to sit down, that's a problem for ADHD people, sit down and do what you're supposed to do. And I got like 5 or so done, and that took maybe a couple of hours. But my immediate reaction wasn't that I was celebrating that I did it or giving myself credit for it. It was, yeah, but there's still, 100 to go, and you should be faster at this. And you just start berating yourself. Again, apologies for running out of breath. And that's one of the big frustrations that I've had. And then moving forward, trying to look at what I want to accomplish in 2024. There is so much, there's a big dog there. There's so much information out there, especially in the self-help industry, that I think is really well-meaning, but I think is really bad or counterproductive, at least for people with ADHD. And on the other hand, I think there's some self-help that's discounted for normal people, neurotypical people, that is really important for ADHD people to know. One of the things is, for example, when people argue about whether you should do something you love or not, and I've gone back and forth on this, there's different opinions, but it just made me realize, as an ADHD person, yeah, you probably need to do something you love because you've got that dopamine problem. And so it's been looking to 2024 and trying to accept this you'll understand if you've got ADHD, trying to accept that my brain works differently to other people, because I didn't know that. Because I've said that before to other people. It's like, well, how would you know your brain's different? Because it's the only one you've got. And then trying to work with that rather than against it. That's been something I've been giving a lot of thought to. Not sure how yet. I'm feeling I want to create more content around neurodiversity, and not just to create content, but to help people who have it, not just deal with it, but actually to leverage off of it. Because I really believe, this is the other thing, I believe ADHD people are some of the most interesting people I know. In fact, it tends to work out that people that I really like hanging around, they're kind of crazy, entrepreneurial, creative, and then you find out, they had ADHD. I didn't know that at the time. I just thought I liked hanging around crazy people. But when I've seen some people go on medication, I haven't. I'm not saying there's anything bad about it. I just want that to be a last resort, the first resort. And but when I've talked to people who've been on it, almost always they say they lose something when they go on the medication. And normally it's the creativity. Don't get me wrong, if your ADHD is worse than mine and you can't sit down to do anything, you probably will need the medication. I can't comment on it, I haven't taken it, but it's a shame to think that to operate in our society that we need to sort of dumb ourselves down, you know what I mean, like take away that creativity, which I think is one of the strengths of an ADHD person. So then the question was, okay, is there some way to leverage off our strengths whilst mitigating against the weaknesses? So, I mean, this is all, I think there's a lot that's gone really kind of undiscussed or unpublicized with people with ADHD and neurodiverse people in general. And I was just thinking, like, with ADHD people, it's maybe because ADHD people find it difficult to sit down and do stuff on one topic. That might be why maybe there's not as much stuff on ADHD as there could be. But also I think going on an adventure and trying to sort life out as someone who, again, potentially has ADHD, I think that's a lesson that is worth sharing, or a journey that's worth sharing. Because as I said, like when I was growing up, when I was coaching tennis even, I saw ADHD as a negative thing. I always thought it was just someone who can't sit still, a little kid who can sit still. But it's so much more nuanced than that, especially when it's in adults. I'm talking about like specific, like, I don't know if it's adult onset, but adult ADHD versus the stereotypical, kid that's had too much red sugar kind of ADHD. So those are just some of my thoughts as I walk up and down this hill with my weighted vest, which, again, it's just the way that I ended up wearing this is because I went down, it's not just a rabbit hole. ADHD people fall down rabbit holes all the time, but it's not just a rabbit hole, it's a spider's network, the spider's web that happens from the rabbit hole. So you do keto, then you start doing some podcasts, and then you hear someone talking about ADHD and epilepsy and ketosis, and then you look at, you go to another podcast where the person is saying, oh, one of the things that you should do is do this sort of exercise, which is exercise you've been doing, but to add something to it, a hack. Apparently ADHD people love hacks, so hence I'm wearing my weighted vest. And you're kind of constantly running these experiments, and you really do love life in a way that so remember, like, another thing, kombucha. I wanted to start brewing kombucha again. Now with ketosis, you need to stay on low sugar, and kombucha can have varying amounts of sugar depending on how long you let it brew for. So what did I do? How can you measure the amount of sugar in a liquid solution? Oh, there's something called a Brix refractometer. So I bought one yesterday. It only cost $20, and it allows you to put a drop or a few drops of a solution onto this lens, and then you can use the refraction to determine how much sugar is. So, normal person goes, oh yeah, kombucha, I'll go buy some. My brain goes, oh, kombucha, I brewed that before. Let's buy the SCOBY, the starter. Let's get the big glass jars, because I want to make, sizable amounts. Get the refractometer, so if I wanted to, I can have kombucha while staying in ketosis. On and on and on. And it just never stops. And again, I always thought that was normal. And I don't want to dull that. Don't get me wrong, I want to be able to mitigate against it, because running around like a headless chook doesn't help anyone. But I don't want to lose that creativity, that way of, I think it's an ADHD thing, that you can connect the dots between so many other seemingly disparate areas. What other people think is disparate, but you see it as one whole. So yeah, those are my jumbled thoughts on this lovely Thursday summer's morning in Sydney, Australia, after being on the keto diet for over 2 weeks now, and having some of the most productive 2 weeks of my life, yet still dealing with issues. Like, it's brought up more issues, like realizing how hard I am on myself, and I think that's another ADHD thing as well. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there and keep trudging up and down this hill. But if you've got ADHD and you resonate with any of this stuff, I'd love to connect. So just drop me a message below.